Hello everyone, this is Laurel. Today we're going to be making a beautiful ring, and this is what it looks like. It's adjustable and it adjusts on the top. You have a woven band, and then these two pieces come together, but they do move so you can adjust it. And with the same technique, just having the swirls going in different directions, I also made this adjustable ring, which is quite lovely, with the woven band, and again adjusts on the top. And you can use 4mm beads for these, or you can just leave them without beads. The supplies you'll need are a ruler, flush cutters, needle nose pliers. I have the nylon flathead pliers just to straighten the wire, to help straighten it. You could use your fingers also. And the round nose pliers. The wire we'll be using is Wire Elements. I do prefer using this. We're going to use 20 gauge vintage bronze and 28 gauge vintage bronze. The wire is non-tarnish. It has a coating on it. I have never had a problem with this. It works really well. And what you're going to need from that is 4 6-inch pieces of the 20 gauge. So that's 4 pieces of the 20 gauge at 6 inches. The 28 gauge, I just pulled off probably 2 arms length worth of wire, and the 28 gauge what came to 5 feet. And then you can just set that aside. You'll be using that for the weaving. Also, if you choose to use beads, what you'll need are 2 4mm beads. These are Mootkite Jasper, and that's what I chose to go with the bronze. So let's get started. Now you'll need your 28 gauge, and just find the end and leave a good portion, I'd say about 6 inches from where you begin. So then you'll take your 1 6-inch 20 gauge, and I'd say about 1 1/4 inch down, you're going to start wrapping. And I would say 10 wraps, and keep it tight. You will be adding to this. Then take your second wire and line it up with your first. And then what you're going to be doing is doing 3 wraps around both wires. And then push them in so they're snug. Now, when you came around, you came straight down from the back. What you're going to do is open the 2 wires, bring the 28 gauge wire through the 2 wires, pull tight, and so what you have is you have your 10 wraps here, and then the 3 around the 2, and your wire came through these 2 at the very end. So on the third wrap, instead of it hanging down straight, you brought it through these 2 wires. Now we'll add the third. So you line it up with the other 2. And then since it came through these 2, the wire, 28 gauges between the first and the second. So what you'll do now is wrap 3 times around the second and the third wire. Now, it gets a little hard, but because they kind of go in their own little directions. Okay, so now there's 3 wraps, and instead of going down, you will be going between the second and the third and pulling it forward. And just pull it tight, and just tighten up your weave. Next, you'll be taking your 4th wire, adding it to the 3. Okay, and now the 28 gauge came between the second and the third wire. So now you're going to wrap 3 times around the third and the 4th wire. And this is where it gets a little tricky because they kind of all go in their own direction. Oh, let me just separate these. You could separate them a little. Okay, so there's 3 wraps, and I actually brought it forward, so I shouldn't have done that. So then it's hanging down behind it, and now that one will go between the 3rd and the 4th. Now what you're going to do, separate them so it's a little easier. They kind of just mess up once in a while and get in their own little direction, so just straighten them up a little bit. Now this one's going to go down between the first and the second wire. So what you're doing is the wire that came up between the 3rd and the 4th is now going to come down and go between the 1st and the 2nd, and then you'll bring it up to the between the 3rd and the 4th and bring it back down between the 1st and the 2nd, and again the same way, and then you have your step down 1. See, so it came down 1, and then this will come through the 2nd and the 3rd, and just tighten it up and push them all together, and then straighten them up again so you don't get confused. Okay, so then the the 28 gauge wire that came between the 2nd and the 3rd will now go down over the 1st. So you're catching those 2 wires. It's always 3 wraps around 2 wires. Okay. And then this just comes straight down, and then you're going to come up in between the 1st and the 2nd wire, and then you're going to start all over again. So you're going to go up over the second and third wire and go, it's actually between the third and the fourth wire, and you're going to wrap that 3 times. Just tighten it up a bit. Now this will come through the second and the third. Just tighten that up. Now this wire will go over the third and the fourth, and you'll do that 3 times. And then bring that wire from the back between the third and the fourth, and then you'll go down, and with the 28 gauge wire you will do 3 wraps around the 2 and the third wire, the 20 gauge, see? Okay, and then this will come up between, after the third wrap, so the wrap is hanging down, you're going to come up between the second and the third. So it's kind of like making a half of a wrap around the 1. And then you come down over the first and the second, do 3 wraps. And then come up between the first and the second, and see how it's starting to make a pattern. Okay, you're going to go over the second and the third 3 times, and then come between the second and the third, and then you're going to go over the third and the fourth 3 times. Oops, I got a little messed up here. Third wrap. And then you're going to come through the second and the third. And you just tighten it up, push them together. Then down to the first and the second, 3 wraps. And then you're going to come up through the first and the second wire, and then you're going to continue on upward, then downward, then upward, then downward. So it looks like this. Oops, I'm sorry. I hope I explained it well enough for you. If I didn't, please comment below and I will try to help you as best as I can, or I'll try doing just a video just on the weave. I finished doing the weave off the camera, and this is what it looks like. Now, when doing this, you're going to have a front and a back. So the front will be the 3 weaves, and then the back will have 2 weaves and then just that small one at the bottom. Now, so we started here We did approximately 10 wraps, and then we began the weave, which zigzags up and down, as you can see. And we'll finish it off. The last one will be 3 on the bottom, and then you'll come through the first and the second, and then you will do 10 wraps. Like so. We will be adding more, so do not trim the excess off both ends. Okay, so we have approximately about 2.5 inches. And you can just check. It's actually a little bit less than 2.5 for the weave part. And then if you go by the ends, it's just a little bit more than 2.5. So it's between 2.5 and 2 3/4. Now, okay, so that is for this ring. If you want to do this ring, you will end up finishing the row up here and then wrapping the 4th wire. But in this one, we're going to do the final wraps. The beginning wrap and the final wrap are both on the 1st wire. Now we're going to start making the curls. So on the 4th wire, just pull those out, measure about 3/4 of an inch, and then you will use your flush cutters and cut right at that point. Now remember, it's the 4th one, so we're not doing opposites. So measure 1/3, and then you will use your round nose pliers and just roll it down. That one didn't work very well. Like so. Now, you may have to trim a little off of this one. I think I made that one just a little bit too long. Okay. Might have to open this up again. Okay. Now the second wire you can do at 1 inch. And cut with the flush cutters. Okay. And then the second wire, you'll roll it down. And for this, you can use the nylon flat nose to help you roll them down. So, or you can use your fingers to roll it. And you'll roll it just so it's above the second one. Actually, you can pull it out just a little bit so it sticks out just a little. Like so. Now you're going to go to the the first wire where you first started, and you will wrap several more times. On both sides, and we're just adding a little bit. Make sure it's tight. Make sure you push them in. Just like you did when you were doing the weave, you just push it with your nail, just so it looks really like a nice tight weave. Okay, maybe a couple more on this side. And we're not done with that yet. Now, just separate that a little bit. Keep these, do not clip them yet. Now, we're going to take our little beads and just put them right on that second one. And from the bead, we will clip it, I would say, about 3/4 of the way up from the bead. And then slowly we'll just make a nice little curl. Oh. I think this is a bit much for this curl now that I'm looking at it. So I'm going to take this off and clip it ever so slightly. And then redo that. Now you can work with these because you might have to trim them here and there. And I've noticed while I'm doing this, I can feel them sliding back and forth a little bit, so you just have to readjust them. Okay, and then take the bead on this side. Measure 1/4 of an inch from the bead, about there. Clip it. And then in the same direction as your other little swirls. Make one more. This one seemed to have pulled through a little bit. Okay. Now you can also use these just to straighten it out a little bit. Okay. So now on your first wire where you had done some of the single wrapping, we're going to continue to about the length of this second one with the bead. So we'll just keep wrapping until it's about the length of that second wire with the bead. Oh. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, so let's see how long that is. And that is just a little bit more than 1.5 inches. It's between 1.5 inches and 1.75 inches. So right about there. And then we will clip that. And with your pliers, you will just squish that down so it's not sharp. And let's see, there we go. And then same with this one. Sorry if I go out of frame from the camera. Okay, so right about there. Now let's measure. Right on target. And then we'll clip that. Let's do a little clip. Clip that off. Put this in your scraps because you can use it for something else. Don't throw anything away. You can always find use for the extra wire. Even these little bits, sometimes you can. Okay. For some reason, this one just doesn't want to go down. Come on. There. Okay. Now, we will clip it. Let me see. About 1/2 inch. Oh, let me see. 1/2 inch. Maybe 3/4. Let me see. Okay. I will say 1/2 inch from where you did your final wrap on that first wire. So you can see 1/2 inch. And clip that off. And then you will roll it in the same direction as the other ones. So it looks like this. And then next you will need your ring mandrel. And I usually do it around the size 7, size 8. And you know what? I did it wrong. Oh my gosh, after all of that, I did it wrong. So this one, instead of meeting up in the center, you gotta swirl going both ways. So with this ring, it's completely different, obviously, than the other rings I've done. So you get 3 different types. I really didn't plan on making a totally different ring. I was working on this one, but it doesn't hurt to have all different styles. So if you liked my video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press that little bell so that you can get further notifications of any of my videos. And I really would appreciate comments, so please leave comments below and let me know what you think about these rings. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.